Ladies, let's talk about something that too many people experience but never truly learn how to handle. You gave your time, your energy, your heart to someone who made you feel like an option. You were always available, always waiting, always hoping he would choose you the way you chose him. But he didn't. And now you're sitting there wondering, did I do something wrong? No, you didn't. But you did make one mistake. You put someone first who barely put you second, and now it's time to fix that. The moment you stop being an option for him, you become the option for yourself. You take back the power, and here's the truth: when a man realizes he has lost something irreplaceable, that's when he starts to feel the pain. See, people don't regret losing something replaceable. They regret losing something rare. And the irony? He won't realize it when you're still there waiting. He realizes it when you finally leave the waiting room, when you stop texting first, when you stop answering his calls at his convenience, when you stop playing the role of the understanding woman who tolerates his inconsistency. At first, he won't believe it. He'll assume you'll be back. He'll assume you'll be back. He'll think, "Oh, she's just mad. She'll come around." But when you don't, when he sees you living your life without him, laughing without him, glowing without him, that's when reality will hit. And trust me, that pain, it cuts deep. You don't need revenge. You don't need to make him jealous. You don't need to play games. The best way to make him feel the pain, move on, level up, live better. Because the truth is, the right man will never make you feel like an option in the first place. And the moment you stop chasing the wrong one, you make space for the right one to find you. So if he treated you like an option, make yourself unavailable. If he took you for granted, become the woman he no longer has access to. Because nothing makes a man feel the loss more than the realization that you are no longer his to lose. And when that moment comes, remember, it's not about making him feel the pain. It's about finally valuing yourself enough to stop feeling it. Now go, live your best life, and let him deal with the consequences of underestimating you. Self-worth over validation. You were never just an option. You are the prize. There's a moment in every woman's life when she realizes she's been giving too much of herself to someone who doesn't fully appreciate her. Maybe you've been in a situation where you were always available for him, answering his calls at any hour, rearranging your schedule to fit into his, making excuses for his inconsistency, and hoping that one day he'd see your worth and finally choose you the way you chose him. But the truth is, you were never supposed to wait for someone to choose you. You were supposed to be the prize, the person who decides who is worthy of her time, love, and energy. And yet, somewhere along the way, you started believing that his validation was proof of your worth. You started measuring your desirability based on how much attention he gave you. If he responded quickly, you felt important. If he took hours or days, you felt forgotten. If he made an effort, you felt special. If he withdrew, you questioned everything about yourself. But here's the reality. Your value does not decrease based on someone's inability to see it. His inconsistency isn't a reflection of your inadequacy. It's a reflection of his own uncertainty. And if a man is unsure about you, the last thing you should do is try to convince him of your worth. Because the moment you stop proving yourself to him, you place him in a position of power he never deserved to have in the first place. The harsh truth is, when you chase after validation from someone who doesn't see your value, you train them to believe that they don't have to put in much effort to keep you around. You show them that your love is unconditional, even when they offer the bare minimum. And that's when the dynamic shifts. You become an option because you've unknowingly communicated that you will always be there, waiting, regardless of how they treat you. But imagine flipping that dynamic. Imagine what happens when you stop seeking validation and start standing in your power. What happens when you stop responding immediately, when you stop making yourself so accessible, when you stop showing up for someone who doesn't show up for you? That's when everything changes. Not because you're playing games, but because you're finally respecting yourself enough to walk away from situations that don't honor you. You are the prize. You are the person who decides who deserves a place in your life. And a man who truly values you will never make you feel like an option in the first place. He won't keep you guessing. He won't treat you like an afterthought. He won't make you feel like you have to compete for his attention. So, instead of waiting for him to validate your worth, validate your worth. Validate yourself. Focus on your life, your goals, your happiness. Become so fulfilled, so confident, and so at peace with who you are that his attention, or lack of it, no longer defines how you feel about yourself. Because when you reach that point, you won't have to make him feel the pain of losing you. He'll feel it on his own when he realizes he lost something irreplaceable. The shift in power. The moment you stop chasing and start valuing yourself, he will feel the absence of what he once took for granted. Power in any relationship is never just about who cares more or who puts in more effort. It's about who sets the standard. And for too long, you may have been the one giving, adjusting, and accommodating, believing that if you just showed him how much you cared, he would finally see your worth. But the reality is, the more you chased, the less he valued you. When someone believes you'll always be there, they stop trying. Honesty. They assume that no matter how little effort they put in, you'll still answer the phone, still forgive the broken promises, still excuse the neglect. And over time, what started as a deep connection turns into something one-sided. You giving, him taking, you waiting, him delaying. But what happens when you finally decide that you are done waiting? That's when the shift in power happens. The moment you stop chasing him, stop rearranging your life around his, stop making yourself so available, something inside him starts to change. Because he was never forced to feel your absence before, he never had to wonder what it would be like without you, because you were always there, always waiting, always hoping he would step up. And then suddenly, you're not. You stop being the woman who texts first. You stop answering his late-night messages. You stop clearing your schedule for his last-minute plans. You stop seeking validation from someone who never truly gave it to you in the first place. At first, he might not even notice. He might assume you're just busy or that you'll eventually come back like you always do. But then days turn into weeks and he starts to feel something unfamiliar. The void of you, the absence of your attention, the silence of your affection. The space that was once filled by you constantly showing up is now empty. And for the first time, he begins to wonder, why isn't she texting me first anymore? Why doesn't she seem interested in what I'm doing? Has she moved on? Because here's the truth, people only start to value what they no longer have access to. He didn't appreciate your effort when it was given freely, but now that it's gone, he starts to feel the weight of your absence. And this isn't about playing games, it's about recognizing your own worth and choosing to invest in yourself rather than pouring your energy into someone who never reciprocated. When you shift the power back to yourself, you stop reacting to him, he starts reacting to you. The moment he realizes that he is no longer the center of your world, he begins to question why. The woman he once thought would always be, there is suddenly unattainable, and that's when the regret starts to creep in. He begins to remember the way you laughed at his jokes, the way you supported him even when he didn't deserve it, the way you were always present in a way no one else was. And suddenly, he wishes he had treated you differently, but by then, the power has already shifted. Because now, it's no longer about whether he chooses you, it's about whether you still want to choose him. Emotional detachment, the key to making him feel the pain isn't revenge, it's indifference when a man has treated you like an option. Your first instinct might be to show him what he lost. Maybe you want him to see you glowing on social media, to watch you moving on with someone else, or to hear about how amazing your life is without him. You might think that if he realizes how much he hurt you, he'll finally regret his actions and come running back. But here's the truth. The opposite of love isn't hate, it's indifference. Revenge keeps you tied to the past. It means you still care, even if it's in a negative way. When you're focused on making him feel the pain, you're still giving him space in your mind. You're still allowing him to dictate your emotions, to control how you move forward. But the most powerful thing you can do isn't to seek revenge or prove a point. It's to be so genuinely unbothered that he no longer has any influence over you. Think about it. When you react, when you show him you're hurt, when you try to make him jealous, you're still playing his game. You're still orbiting around him. And men, especially the ones who take women for granted, thrive on the idea that they still have an effect on you. They like knowing that even after they've neglected you, ignored you, or treated you like an afterthought, you're still thinking about them. But when you become emotionally detached, that's when the tables turn. The moment you stop engaging, stop checking his social media, stop looking for signs that he misses you, he starts to notice your silence. And trust me, silence is louder than words. At first, he might not believe it. He might assume you're playing hard to get, that you're still lurking in the background, waiting for an opportunity to reconnect. But as time passes and he sees that you're not just pretending, you're truly moving on, that's when the pain hits. Because now he's the one wondering, why isn't she reacting anymore? Why doesn't she care what I'm doing? Why does it feel like she's erased me from her life? And that's exactly what you've done. Not out of spite, but out of self-respect. You've removed yourself from the situation, not because you're trying to teach him a lesson, but because you no longer need his validation to feel whole. The beauty of emotional detachment is that it allows you to reclaim your energy. Instead of obsessing over what he's thinking or whether he's regretting his choices, you start focusing on yourself. Your happiness is no longer dependent on his attention. Your confidence isn't tied to whether he texts you back. You're no longer affected by his hot and cold behavior because, quite frankly, he no longer holds any emotional significance in your life. And the moment he senses that indifference, that's when he starts to feel the loss. Because it's easy to play games with someone who is still emotionally invested. But when you take away that investment, when you genuinely stop caring, that's when he realizes what he had and lost. This isn't about bitterness. It's about power. It's about reclaiming the energy you wasted on someone who never deserved it. And once you detach emotionally, you don't just make him feel the absence of you, you make room for yourself to truly thrive. Investing in yourself. Instead of investing energy into someone who didn't appreciate you, redirect that energy toward building your best life when you pour your time, energy, and emotions into someone who doesn't truly appreciate you. You don't just lose them, you lose yourself. You lose precious moments overanalyzing their words, waiting for their attention, and trying to prove your worth to someone who never deserved that level of devotion. But imagine if all that energy, all that love, and all that effort were redirected toward you. The mistake most people make after being treated like an option is believing that the best way to prove their worth is by getting the person to regret their decision. They want to make him see what he lost, to make him realize that he should have chosen them. But the real power isn't in proving anything to him. It's in proving to yourself that you were always enough. Think about how much mental and emotional space he took up. The endless analyzing of his mixed signals, the waiting for his texts, the disappointment when he didn't show up the way you hoped. Now imagine if that space was filled with you, your goals, your passions, your growth. What if you took all that energy and used it to build the life you deserve rather than chasing after someone who was never fully present? When you shift the focus back to yourself, something powerful happens. You stop seeking external validation because your confidence comes from within. You stop wasting time on people who can't see your value because you're too busy creating a life that reflects your worth. And most importantly, you begin to realize that your happiness was never supposed to depend on someone else in the first place. So, where do you start? Prioritize your growth instead of scrolling through his social media, wondering what he's up to. Use that time to develop yourself. Read books that expand your mindset. Take up a new hobby. Learn a skill that excites you. Sign up for a class that challenges you. Every moment you invest in learning and growing makes you stronger, wiser, and more independent. Take care of your mind and body when you are focused on him. How much did you neglect yourself? Were you skipping workouts because you were too emotionally drained? Were you stress eating or losing sleep over someone who wasn't even thinking about you? Now is the time to reclaim your health. Move your body, eat foods that nourish you, and surround yourself with people who uplift you. When you feel good physically and mentally, you radiate confidence, and that energy is far more attractive than any desperate attempt to win someone back. Build a life that excites you. You ever noticed how people who are truly happy with their lives don't chase others? That's because they're too busy living. Create a life that excites you so much that you don't have time to dwell on who isn't showing up for you. Travel, take risks, step outside your comfort zone. The more fulfilled you are, the less you'll care about someone who failed to appreciate you. Surround yourself with high-value people. The company you keep plays a huge role in how you see yourself. If you surround yourself with people who uplift, inspire, and challenge you to be better, you naturally level up. But if you keep holding on to people who drain you, you'll stay stuck. Choose wisely. When you invest in yourself, the transformation is undeniable. You no longer seek love from someone who can't give it to you because you've already given it to yourself. You no longer feel the need to be chosen because you choose yourself every single day. And when he finally realizes what he lost, you'll be so far ahead in your journey that his regrets won't even matter. Scarcity mindset via abundance. He acted like you were replaceable, but now he's realizing that genuine connection and chemistry aren't easy to find. Some men operate with a scarcity mindset without even realizing it. They treat relationships like a numbers game, always keeping their options open, assuming that no matter what, there will always be someone else. They take you for granted, believing that if things don't work out, they can replace you with someone better or easier. And for a while, they get away with it. He thought he could keep you at arm's length, breadcrumb you just enough to keep you interested, and string you along while he entertained other options. He figured that if you ever got tired of it, he could simply move on. But what he didn't realize is that true connection is rare. At first, when you walked away, he might not have felt it immediately. Maybe he even enjoyed the newfound freedom. He went out, talked to new people, and convinced himself that your absence wasn't a big deal. But then, something started to shift. He started to notice that the chemistry he had with you wasn't something he could just manufacture with someone else. That the effortless conversations, the deep emotional connection, the way you understood him, those things aren't easily replaceable. Wow. He might have believed that attraction is enough, that having options meant he'd never feel the void. But attraction fades, and the options don't always measure up. Because while he was busy keeping his options open, what he failed to see was that you weren't an option. You were the prize. And prizes don't wait around to be chosen. The women he meets now might be fun for a moment, but they don't challenge him the way you did. They don't bring the same depth, the same energy, the same emotional security. They don't make him feel truly seen. And suddenly, he's looking back, wondering how he let something so rare slip through his fingers. Because the truth is, when a man thinks you are replaceable, it's because he doesn't yet understand your value. But once you're gone, once he realizes that what you brought to the table isn't something he can just pick up somewhere else, that's when he starts to feel the loss. At first, he may try to convince himself that he made the right decision. He might even double down, pretending he doesn't care. But over time, he'll begin to see the difference between quantity and quality. He'll notice that attention from multiple people isn't the same as deep emotional connection with one person. He'll see that constant flirting and casual dates don't replace the feeling of being truly understood by someone. He'll realize that while he thought he was operating from a place of abundance, keeping his options open, refusing to commit, he was actually acting from a place of scarcity. Yodi. He feared settling down, feared losing his freedom, feared making the wrong choice, but in trying to keep his options open, he lost the best one he ever had. And by the time he sees it, by the time he recognizes what he let go of, you'll already be gone. Not because you wanted to punish him, not because you wanted revenge, but because you no longer operate from a scarcity mindset either. You understand that genuine connection isn't something to chase or beg for. It's something that flows naturally, something that is nurtured and valued. And if someone didn't see that when they had the chance, it's not your job to teach them. Because while he was busy thinking he could replace you, you already moved on to someone who never saw you as an option in the first place. There's a universal truth when it comes to relationships. The moment you shift your focus away from someone who took you for granted, they start to notice. It's ironic, isn't it? When you were prioritizing him, giving him your attention, and making an effort to be there, he acted as if he had all the time in the world. He didn't appreciate the way you showed up for him, nor did he recognize the value you brought into his life. He assumed you'd always be there, always waiting, always giving, no matter how little he reciprocated. But the tables always turn. The second you step into your power, reclaim your energy, and stop making him the center of your world, he starts to feel the shift. Suddenly, he notices your absence. He wonders why your name doesn't pop up on his phone anymore, why you're not liking his posts, why you don't seem to care about his life like you used to. At first, he might brush it off, thinking you're just in a phase. But as time passes and he realizes that you're not just pretending, you're genuinely moving on, That's when the regret starts creeping in. Because here's what happens when you stop prioritizing him. You disrupt the dynamic. So he was used to you always being available, always accommodating, always making the effort. The moment you withdraw that energy, he's forced to face the reality that he was never the one in control. You were. Your attention was what fueled his ego. And now that it's gone, he feels the void. He starts questioning himself. When you were prioritizing him, he had the luxury of assuming you'd always be there. Now that you're focused on yourself, he starts to wonder, did she ever really need me? Or was I the one who needed her? Why isn't she chasing me? Did I make a mistake letting her go? He realizes the difference between attention and true connection. He may have had other people giving him attention, but now he sees that attention and genuine connection are not the same thing. The way you made him feel, the way you challenged him, supported him, understood him, was something unique. And now he doesn't have that anymore. His ego takes a hit. Whether he admitted it or not, he liked knowing you were there. Even if he didn't put in the effort, he liked the security of knowing that someone cared about him. Now that you've stepped into your power, he realizes that he was never the prize you were. He starts to chase. Here's the real kicker: the less you care, the more he does. The moment you stop prioritizing him, he starts wondering why. Suddenly, he wants to text you, check up on you, see what you're doing. He might start liking your posts again, commenting on things he never paid attention to before. But by then, the power dynamic has completely changed, because you're not the same person who once waited for him to see your worth. You've moved forward, built yourself up, and realized that you were never asking for too much. You were just asking the wrong person. The tables have turned not because you played games, but because you finally chose yourself. And now he's the one left wondering why he ever let you go. There's a shift that happens the moment you stop chasing, stop overgiving, and stop making someone a priority when they only saw you as an option. It's not about playing games or trying to manipulate the situation. It's about recognizing your own worth and acting accordingly. And when you do that, something fascinating occurs. The dynamic flips. The man who once thought you would always be there, who assumed you would keep prioritizing him no matter how little effort he put in, suddenly finds himself questioning everything. Why? Because people only realize the value of something once it's no longer available to them. At first, he may not notice the change. He might think you're just being distant for a short while, or that you'll eventually come back around. See? But as time goes on, as you continue to focus on yourself and refuse to feed his ego with your energy, he begins to feel the shift. And that shift is powerful. Suddenly, the roles have reversed. You were once a constant in his life, always available, always reaching out, always showing care. Even if he didn't always acknowledge it, he felt secure knowing you were there. But now, that energy is gone. No more checking in, no more waiting for his attention, no more prioritizing someone who never prioritized you. And that absence, he feels it. At first, he might try to fill the void with distractions, going out, talking to other people, keeping busy. But no matter what he does, nothing quite replaces the way you made him feel. When you were constantly available, he had the luxury of taking you for granted. But now that you've stepped into your power and redirected your energy, he starts asking himself, why isn't she reaching out anymore? Did I misjudge her feelings? Did I make a mistake letting her go? This is where the tables truly turn. Because when he thought he had control of the situation, he wasn't thinking deeply about his actions, but now he's the one overthinking. For a while, he might convince himself that he can replace you, that there are plenty of options out there, that moving on will be easy. But soon, he'll notice the difference. He'll meet other women, engage in conversations, maybe even try dating again. But something will feel off. Because genuine connection isn't easily replaceable. The way you understood him, the way you supported him, the way you made him feel safe, it wasn't just about attraction or surface level interactions. It was real. And real isn't something you just find anywhere. Whether he realized it or not, he liked the fact that you were there. It gave him a sense of control. Even if he wasn't fully committing, he knew that he had a place in your life. But now, that place is gone. And it stings. And it stings. Because now, he's the one wondering if he was ever as important to you as he thought he was. He starts noticing that you're happy without him, that you're doing just fine on your own. And nothing bruises the ego more than realizing that someone who once cared deeply for you no longer does. The irony of it all is that the more you pull away, the more he wants to come back. The moment he senses that he's losing his hold over you, he starts trying to regain it. Suddenly, he's watching your stories, liking your posts, sending random texts. Maybe he asks how you've been or brings up an old inside joke. Anything to get a reaction, anything to feel that connection again. But by then, the game has changed, because you're no longer the same person who once waited for him to see your worth. You've stepped into your power, and now he's the one left wondering why he ever let you go. The most powerful shift you can make in your life is realizing that you were never the one waiting to be chosen. He was. The moment you stop chasing, stop proving your worth, and stop giving energy to someone who never truly valued you, you take back control. And when you do, the tables always turn. He starts to feel the void of your absence. He starts to question his choices. He starts to realize that you weren't just another option, you were the option. And by the time he finally sees it, you've already moved on. But the most important part, you don't do this for him, you do this for you. Because stepping into your power isn't about making him regret losing you. It's about realizing that you never needed him to validate your worth in the first place.